The people of Com appear to like doing things in their own way, chart their own system of succession, and you bet, give their sons and daughters out in marriage in their own unique way. Welcome to the Summon, the African Summon, where we connect you to Africa and African culture. In today's edition, we're taking you back to the tribe of Com with its matrilineal succession system to understand how this system affects the way in which the men and women are given and received in marriage. We have a guest from the Palace of Com. He is the Tumfon, and he is Victor Wenger. The title of Tumfon is bestowed upon a messenger of the Fon. He is a custodian of custom and tradition. He represents the Fon at events at which he is designated to do so. He takes messages from the Fon to the people of Com, and so takes messages from his people back to his Fon. Invite your friends and loved ones and join us for this intriguing session. Also, do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. I'm happy to be here to talk culture. So it's a great opportunity. Thank you so much for having me.
We are delighted to have the Tumfon with us. So please tell us a little bit about Cameroon and Com, and precisely where you come from.
What else can I say about Cameroon? Africa in miniature, right? If you're talking about African Summon, and you talk Cameroon, it's Africa in miniature. And everybody knows what Africa is, the diversity of Africa in terms of cultures, in terms of languages, in terms of style, vegetation, and all of that. So parcel all of that and put in one place and call it Cameroon. So that's what Cameroon is. And I'm telling everybody out there, if you are not African, or even if you are African and you want to travel Africa and enjoy Africa by simply visiting one place, then the place you want to go is Cameroon, because you can find the entire Africa in there in terms of the diversity and culture and style. Cameroon is a central African country. Sometimes people confuse it as a West African because of just how close it is to the west side. It's administratively 10 regions. It's bilingual officially, but when you really go down from the cultural perspective, it is multilingual. The diversity is huge. More than, people will say, 200, 250, 300, even up to 400 different tribes, each with its own unique culture and identity, language, style, and everything. So that's what Cameroon is, a melting pot of sorts. The people are very, very welcoming. The people are very, very sociable. In fact, I think a Cameroonian can dance every song from every African country. I don't know many Africans who can dance songs from outside of their country. I'm not just joking there, but that's true. So Cameroon is very, very sociable. The people are very sociable and hardworking too. Oh, by the way, very good in soccer, right? Football. Let me call it football. Yes, very, very good in football, although we did not win the African Nations Cup that we recently hosted. But I think everybody knows that we are very good in football. Yeah. So that's a brief. And I cannot leave this without mentioning that currently there's some trouble, right? You talk about Cameroon today and not talk about the trouble that is ongoing in the northwest and southwest regions, then it's not a complete story. So just letting people know that there's always that fight as the Anglophone side of the country continues to feel that they're marginalized and everything. But that's a fight that continues, even though the cultures try to maintain themselves even within this dichotomy. So we continue to strive for more, for peace and progress for everyone.
We praise you for your people.
Thank you.
And what's so unique about Com? What would you like for us to know about the Com people?
Yeah, so Com, of the 400 different tribes and cultures that exist in Cameroon, I'm going to say Com is number one. And if you like to say US is number one too, that's fine. But for me, Com is number one. Com is at the top of the cultural hierarchy in Cameroon. Com is situated in the grass fields, right, of Cameroon, in the northwest region of Cameroon, the highlands of Cameroon, the English-speaking part of Cameroon. So Com is one of the tribes that is up there. And some people will say one of the major tribes, because when you call the major tribes in the Northwest, you talk of Kom and Saw, Bali, and so on and so forth. But you will, no matter how many of them you call, Kom is going to feature amongst those. So that is Kom. And if you hear Kom, one thing that comes to people's mind immediately is Afo-a-Kom. The famous Afo-a-Kom, this statue that was stolen back in the 1960s and sold, found its way in the US, in some gallery in the US, caused a lot of trouble, frightened the white man so much that they had to find a way to send it back, right? And it came back in 1973. That's the famous Afo-a-Kom. That's our spiritual guardian of sorts. And if you've heard kate kate in terms of food, if you've heard kate kate, you want to eat fufu corn and kate kate. That's chicken that is roasted chicken, nicely, mixed in palm oil, organic, and a little bit of salt and some pepper, and it's going. So that's something that is typical of the Kom people.
When a man and a lady want to get married, how do they approach the subject? How do they bring it up, and what do they have to do to get to the point of being married?
The process for getting married is a long one, but it essentially begins with the two people, right? And this will be the same everywhere. It begins with two people who have found themselves and think they are good together, and that they can solemnize this by getting married and going from there. Each of these persons needs to bring that information to their respective families. How you do that depends on the family structure, and family structures are different. So the girl, prospective bride, will take it to their family whatever way she deems fit, and the prospective groom will take it to his family. Take for example, I go home, I want to get married, I found a girl that I want to get married to, and I'm trying to bring this information to my parents. So what is my entry point? Entry point could be my mom, if that's the person that I'm more connected to on a daily basis. We discuss certain things, or it could be my dad. If it is that, I spend a lot of time with my dad. We do certain things together, and during those moments we share things. That will be the entry point. But the fact is, you have to find your entry point. It could be another brother or sister who has an easier way talking to people than you. You are still like, how am I going to say this? But the fact is, you have to find that entry point.
Essentially, Kom does not prescribe how
you break the news.
Present it to your parents.
Yes, it doesn't. Okay. It doesn't prescribe how you break the news.
And the news goes to either your mother or father, not to another party.
Exactly. Eventually, it has to go to your father. How it gets to him, either directly from you or through your mom. You can tell your mom, and your mom will not tell your father. Your mom will create an environment for you to be the one to tell him, and she will be the catalyst, right? She will be there and signaling you to say, do it now, kind of thing. So it all depends on the family dynamics, how that information gets to the right quarters. So that's the entry point.
So the king man knows that his son or daughter is interested in someone from Kom. What do they do?
So if you're interested in, now it depends. So if you're coming, if the girl, right? So the way I'm going to describe it is that, because traditional wedding in Kom is with respect to the bride. So the way we'll be approaching this is that the groom is the one coming. So traditional wedding describes what happens when you go to take a bride. Because it follows the bride's family, the bride's lineage, and every responsibility that you have, every role that you have to play is based on what is prescribed by the bride's family, and so on. So in that sense, whether you are from Kom or you are from out of Kom, you have to do exactly the same thing, because it depends on the woman's side. So as long as the woman is from Kom, you will do what the Kom tradition says you should do. And so this is the way it will progress. First, you will have to introduce yourself to the family, to the bride's family, prospective bride's family. And how do you do that? You have broken the news to your parents. The parents have to then do the introduction. So it's not you, the individual, right? The parents, by tradition, the parents would do the introduction. That's your dad. And your dad might not necessarily be the one in person. Your dad's brother, in Com tradition, is your dad. Your dad's nephew, which means your cousin, in Com tradition, is your dad. So it could be any one of these persons or a couple of them that your dad sends to go visit the bride's family, the bride's dad.
And this is owing to the matrilineal system of succession in Com. So those who are not aware of how this works, please be sure to watch the matrilineal succession from Com so you can understand exactly what the Timpon is explaining to us here. Please go ahead.
And specifically, not only succession, matrilineal lineage, the way that family lineage is described in Com is along the mother's line, correct? Yeah. So, so the point then is that the representatives of your father, who are your fathers, either brother, father's brother or nephew or a group of them, they will visit the father of the prospective bride. And I think that's what people call in the English language of pidgin knock door, because at this point, you are just going to introduce yourselves and say that our son tells us that he has seen something in this compound that he is interested in. The question is something. What is something? In typical Com tradition, the way to represent the value of something in a compound that is established is by kola nuts, because a planted kola nut tree, right? A planted kola nut takes long time to grow to a point where it bears fruit. So when you go into a compound where there is a kola nut tree that is bearing fruit, then you know that this compound has been well established. This tree has grown, right? And so that's a representation of growth. It's a representation of some kind of nobility in the village. That's so beautiful. One way to break that then to the bride's family is to say, our son says he has seen a beautiful kola nut fruit in this compound. Some people in some cultures will use flour or tomato or whatever they see as value. In the culture, kola nut in a compound is of value. So when you say that you have seen a beautiful kola nut fruit in this compound and he would like to pluck it, or whatever verbiage they use to describe that, but that's the introduction that you go. It's in private. It's a private setting. You create that environment to introduce, and then they will ask you questions. You know where you're from. You describe, especially if you are not from the same village. Right? Because now that is the moment for the bride's family to gather the information they will need for their background check of sorts. If you are from the same village, then they already have that information because you've grown up together. They know that you are this person's son, you are this person, and this is how the family is, and this and that and that. But if you're coming from somewhere else, they need to do their due diligence to know exactly where, if this is true, what their daughter has gotten them into.
You bring up a very important point. So a lot of times parents like their kids getting married within the tribe because it helps in the background check process. So Correct. They kind of know these people, and just by mentioning the name, they can tell you if you're talking about someone of nobility, somebody they would like to marry their daughter to, or Correct. They know that those are people they shouldn't do any business with. Correct. They also know that the risks are limited. Correct. But when you go outside of that tribe, there is a challenge. The person might not even know their customs.
Exactly.
The person might not know the way they do things. So it's not just that they don't know how these people are on a basis of what their character standing is. But even in terms of their culture, you're now bringing us into a territory where we have to explain ourselves.
Exactly.
Why we do things the way we do them. Thank you so much for pointing that out.
So that is as you say, there is no disguise, right? So in the case of people from the same village, They have known these families for ages and ages. So there's nothing new. There's no way the son can disguise themselves for a short period of time to show how good they are and then turn out to not be what they thought they were, so they already know all of that. But when you are coming from outside, a little bit more work needs to be done to ensure that this person is not showing a face that is not their true face, because that could be very easily, that camouflage could be very easy. And so some more due diligence is needed.
So now they have, I presume both families have done their background check and they're in agreement and they've come and introduced the subject. We found a collar knot and would like to pluck it. And how do they get themselves to the next stage? And what's that next stage?
Right. So the next stage then of actual activity is that this is accepted, because if it is not accepted, then it's done and done, right? But if it is accepted, then they have to schedule an official visit to the father of the prospective bride, because the only person that has the power to give away a child in wedding is the father of the bride.
And this is the first step towards,
and that is the actual first step of the official wedding, traditional wedding process.
Thank you.
To go and visit the father of the bride, which means that between the time when you go introduce the idea and the time when they accept and set that official visit, that is the time for all those background checks and interfamily discussions. It will not just be a blank time. There will be interfamily discussions that connect the people. Every now and then they'll call and ask, like, okay, how are we doing? There will be some visits that will happen between those times. Use those moments to assess. They will create moments where they can meet either in church or meet in some traditional setting, meet in some other setting, and just weigh each other out and see how these, relationships are. Again, typically in a scenario where these people come from the same environment, right? People coming from outside, there will be other ways of looking into it, or trusting the judgment of the girl, trusting the judgment of other people to tell the family that, okay, we know this person, this is what it is, and they will not have to do it by themselves. But yes, once those discussions have gone through and there's an acceptance that this can proceed, then a date for the official visit to the father of the bride happens. That is when they say Afo'Bowayn. Afo'Bowayn. The bride's father's thing, something for the bride's father.
Okay.
That is the official indication that a wedding is going to take place, that traditional marriage is taking place. So between the initial visit, introductory visit, and the day you actually go to give something, that something would have been prescribed. That something would have been given, that information would have been transmitted from the bride's father's side to your father's side, that, okay, you bring this, you bring that, you bring this. But there are typically some items. Quantities don't matter.
Is this the
right?
bride
Because
price?
quantities vary. Yes. So you might have palm wine in there. You might have palm oil, typically, of course. Palm oil. You might have some dry beef, beef that has been dried and, smoked, and so those are items. In terms of quantity, there might be some money involved, right? There might be money involved. So things might happen in cash or in kind. But the idea is that the bride's family would have given some items that constitute what a bride price would be for their daughter. So that's the father. Now, does he do that by himself, or does he consult with his other family people? Certainly, the decision rests on the father of the bride and how he works the unity within his family and how that works. So the items are there. Quantities don't matter, because quantities vary from one family to a family based on the valuation that the parents have, the nature of the family, and all of that. And so when the day for the Afo'Bowayn is set, that is when the actual groom, prospective groom, goes along. All this time, those initial visits have been representatives. The actual groom himself might not have been there. So the day of the Afo'Bowayn, that's when the actual groom goes along with those that have been doing the negotiations. It's still a small, intimate event. It is not a public event. It's still a small, intimate event. You go in there now with the items that were prescribed. You can bring more, you can bring less. If you don't have, then there'll be discussions and negotiations, whatever happens in there. And then if everything goes well in there, then they bring in the collar knot that you had seen. And they say, okay,
Yes.
first she has to identify and agree that these people that have been coming here and bugging me for all this while are really the people that you say we should engage with. And she will accept. They will ask. She'll say yes. They'll say, okay, they have brought all these things. These are the things standing right here. They have given these things to me. Should I accept them? You'll be like, yes, daddy, you can accept them. They will ask maybe like 3 times. You know, this common thing of calling somebody's name 3 times and say, how many times did I call you? You know,
it's a warning.
Yes. Did you say I should accept these things? You know, because when I eat, I don't regurgitate. So when I take these things today, don't come back to me tomorrow saying I should give them back. This is that and that. So are you sure that this is the person and that I should take these things? And you say yes. And so they'll drink from their cup, something similar to this. You know, take the palm wine, pour it in there, and take a sip and give it to you. Say, give the gentleman, and you share from the same cup like me, and then bring it back, and I give my blessings, and I say, okay, I've accepted. You said I should accept. This contract has been sealed, and so it's all up to you now. But remember, you are my daughter, but you belong to another family. Because in Com, family is matrilineal.
Matrilineal. So
this doesn't conclude it. Now you have to go see the mother of this child. So what you have done here is Afo'Bowayn. That's that initial official event. It's private, small event, but now you have to go see the mother. Now in the Com culture, the mother is not one person. Every relative of the mother is your mother because family is on the mother's side. Nice. So really what you are going to do when you're going to see the mother is that you are going to see the family. And they are the ones now that will set the official wedding day, which is the Ndoh'wii, the public event.
Ooh,
the public event.
Ndoh'wii,
yes. And the Ndoh'wii, which is the public event, in Com happens to be public, I think, because partly it's a way of bringing the entire family together at the same time and not have the groom have to travel distances visiting people individually.
Okay.
So when you go to see the mother, and the mother knows that the father has accepted this, and the father has given away the daughter to marriage to this family. The family now comes to see the mother, and then the mother says, okay, I have heard. Thank you very much. But you know, I carried this daughter in my womb for 9 months, but she is not my daughter. Those that are really responsible for her is this Mama Anastasia that lives in this village, or is this Mama Prudencia that lives in this village, or is this Mama that lives here? So I'll need to talk with them
and get them together.
I'll need to talk with them and see what to do, and then I'll get back to you.
To you.
Correct. So that now is the setting up of the actual traditional wedding, which is the Ndoh'wii. So you will see then that when you come to the Ndoh'wii, you had already given Afo-Bowayn, the father of the bride's thing. So the Ndoh'wii is Afo-Ghi-Nawayn. And you notice the difference here. It's not Afo-Nawayn, because the singular of mother of the bride is Nawayn. But Nawayn, the Nawayn is mothers of the bride, because there are many. So when you come to treat the mother's side, you are treating the family. It's not one person. Gotcha. And so it's important to gather all of them to go to the matriarchs of the family, you know, and talk to them and say, your daughter has found someone, the father has accepted, and now we are trying to see how we can set for him to come and see us, and then they will negotiate and tell what date, of course, is best, taking into account all the traditional days of the week and what works best for women who are always in the farm and, you know, and things like that. So they have to take that into consideration. Of course, they consult with the groom to be to also get their schedules and see what day works best. And when that day is scheduled, that is the official traditional wedding day for this couple.
Got you. So tell us what happens at the official traditional ceremony.
So the official traditional ceremony means that between the date of the setting and the day of the actual ceremony, discussions, they would have also, the women, the mothers, would have also transmitted information to the groom's family about what items.
Oh, yeah, what items they need.
Exactly. Traditionally, there are items that everybody knows that are required. But in terms of quantity, again, it varies by family. And so you won't know the quantities of items until that discussion happens with the mothers, exactly, with the mothers of the bride. So in terms of items, palm oil, right? Meat, firewood, there might be salt, of all those things, dressing to dress the bride officially during the event. So they'll give you those items, and then sometimes they'll give you numbers. They might tell you 3 official, barrels. Let me call it barrels, even though it's not really barrels. 3 official barrels of palm oil, and in come a barrel, which is a wooden tin, might take about 3 of these 20-liter jugs. So that really actually means about maybe 9 tins if there are 3 of them, right? So those items then, and then the beef, and then the maybe salt, and these things are because they're going to be distributed to these mothers, so when they're coming, each one of them comes with their own little container, knowing that they're not going back home empty-handed from this place. So they give you those items, they schedule the date, and then on the day of the traditional wedding, that is the public event. And I would like to indicate here that customarily in the past, the traditional wedding in Kom used to occur at night.
Ndoh'wii.
So we will leave our site. The groom's site will leave their village or their home sometime around 6 p.m., 7 p.m., depending on how far off the other home is, and travel to the other home. And the activities will begin somewhere around 8 or 9 and all the way to about midnight or 1 a.m. And then the groom's part comes back that early morning. But the Quaypoint, over the last few years, evaluated and considered the changing environment and risk associated with night activities in the new age, and decided to change that. And now those activities take place during the day for income. That's the new custom in terms of timing. It now occurs during the day. They actually say a time somewhere between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. A 3-hour event is sufficient to cover the activities of a typical traditional wedding. But whenever it happens, it begins with the groom's family and friends arriving at the bride's compound.
Okay.
So the event takes place in mom's kitchen, because in typical traditional construction, I think a compound is more than one house. So the father's house is somewhere, and then the mother's house is there. And in a polygamous home, there will be multiple female mother houses in which their children grow up, with them, right? So the traditional wedding occurs in the mother's house.
Okay.
That's where the mothers will come and gather. So the arrival of the groom and his entourage constitutes the groom, his groomsmen and family and other friends, carrying all those items that they're supposed to bring. Firewood, all your friends, each one of them carrying firewood. In today's age, you can load it on a truck, can load it in a car, and bring along. But in the days of old, everybody, you carry those on your shoulder from wherever you're coming from. And then those that are carrying the oil, those that are carrying the meat groups and the salt, everybody's coming. And as you enter the compound of the bride, the first sign that you have arrived is the sound of firewood landing on the ground.
Hitting the
ground.
ground.
In terms of number and in terms of weight, because they can feel the sound, they can feel the ground shake when when a log of wood falls down. So they're like, and I'm sure they're shaking their head and saying, "Yeah, did you hear that one? That's correct.
That was good.
Yes." And I think it portrays some level of strength, right? The kind of wood that you throw in the compound and the friends that you bring and the amount of wood that you bring shows both strength in the weight of the wood that is being thrown, shows your connectivity in the quantity of wood that is brought, and it's just an evaluation of how you can, as a son coming into this family, these mothers are like, we are exchanging our daughter for a son, and the son is coming this powerfully. We are lucky. We are proud. We are happy, kind of thing, right? Yeah. So you do that, and then you pass into the house where the event is supposed to take place with the rest of the items, the oil and all those other items that go into the house. So that's the arrival, and that's the beginning of the event. The mothers have been there all day preparing some food, doing some things in there. And so you go in, and then they start, at this point, nobody knows who the groom is. They know that the groom is in that crowd that has just arrived, but he's hiding among everybody else. And so he wiggles his way through the crowd, protected by his friends, into the house. There is a bed that has been prepared for him. He goes up and lies on that bed, and there are people in the house. The house may be full, but nobody will know who he is because he's being protected by the rest of his crowd. He gets up and lies on that bed, and his groomsmen, his friends, brothers, sit across the bed and protect him behind. So until he is presented, nobody really knows who he is, except for the few who actually know through relationships, leading up to this day. But officially, the assumption is that we don't know him. Okay. So it's like on a wedding day in church where they put a veil on the lady, and it is only unveiled at a particular time, right? It will be the same thing here, except that the veil is put on both the groom and the bride. So neither the groom nor the bride is visible to the rest of the public until it is time. Okay. Yes, until it is time. So that's the arrival and the presentation of the items that they bring along.
Now, okay, so we do not know who our groom is. We don't know who our bride is, but the groom has arrived with his entourage, and they have made their majestic presence and entry. What happens from here?
So from this point on, the event has begun. So they begin with assessing the things that they have brought, right? They're assessing the things that they have brought. Somewhere along the line here, the father, who is not in this room because this is a mother's house, the father who is sitting somewhere, maybe with some elders that have come or people that have come from the groom's side, like fathers of the groom, they're sitting with him, enjoying their life, drinking their palm wine and talking tradition and other things over there. Just that, I'm giving my daughter today, so they're down there doing their thing. So at this point, they're evaluating the women on the bride side, are evaluating those items that came. The oil, they will open those, barrels of oil to evaluate the quality and quantity. And you see them, the people on the groom side are watching to see their reactions. You start seeing their heads shaking in disapproval, like there's something missing here, or something. So they create this tension. They create this tension in the moment that seems like there's going to be trouble here. They are not accepting what we have brought. They are saying it's small. They're looking at the oil and saying that it's not full to the brim, and things like that. And then you have to find a way, the representative of your side has to find a way. And not at this point is women to women, right? It's women to women. So your father's nephew, they had done their thing when they did the bowine. On this day now, it's women to women. So even if there's something to be fixed on your side, it's a woman representative from your side that deals with the women on the other side. So it's women to women. That's why they say first the in-laws. So it is the girls, the bride-to-be's in-laws, which means the groom's sisters and women on the groom's side that complete any negotiations. So even if somebody has to come and talk to the groom, it will be one of them that will come to the groom and say, hey, they're saying that oil is not complete. What are we going to do now? All of this. So sometimes for the politics of it, the groom might bring an extra tin of oil and leave it somewhere outside so it can be used for this for this additional negotiations, right? But that is the beauty of it. That is the fun of it. In a sense, it creates some kind of tension. It creates fun. It creates some kind of problem, but also creates solutions right there in the moment. So people learn, right? Creates interaction between the two families right there in that moment. Because up to this point, yes.
Because you in that moment, you see the character traits of various members of the family on both families sides emerge. And people can already tell this person is funny. This person is a troublemaker. This person is absolutely in control. This person is, oh wow.
You see people who are patient, right? You see people who are patient, who takes things calmly and evaluate them and then act. And then you see people who grow angry too easily, you know, like, let's do this thing and go, let's do this thing and go kind of thing, you know, like, why are they delaying? So they're looking at both sides. They're seeing how you are reacting on your side. Even if it is not a problem, they're just trying to delay things a bit and see how you react to being delayed. If your wife gets up tomorrow and is dressing up and fixing their hair, are you going to be kicking her and saying you should do it? So they create some kind of scenario, you know, either genuinely or just as part of the joke to kind of assess the environment and create. And then you see how the interconnectivity and the discussion between the two families goes. And then things kind of like just normalize themselves out and everything goes. But you do get those moments sometimes. And in some families, some go deeper than others, right? Some can actually escalate sometimes, right? Some people can do it wrong. Some people can do it wrong. Some people, so it's family to family, different people management skills, they all come into play here. So people learn how to deal with this thing. So when they're selecting who to be responsible on their side, they know who they're selecting. They know that they're picking somebody who can run this thing, who can deal with it without getting carried away. And so it's good to see in that moment how those things work out. And then it creates the relationship between both families, because negotiations are happening between people on this side now and people on the other side. So they get to know each other. And tomorrow when they meet each other on the road, they'll be like, hey, my sister-in-law, how now? You know, and so it creates that relationship, which is good for the bride and the groom themselves.
So now they've agreed on, they've come to an agreement on what the right amount should be and everything is settled. Is that where the marriage takes place, or what do we expect?
So now everything is now saying, okay, now we can go and bring the bride and her bridesmaids. Because at this point, the bride and the bridesmaids, they're not in the house, they're outside.
Okay, bring them in, let's see.
Right? So they're going to go bring them now, and they're bringing them, they're all, you know, not really covered, they're dressed in wrapper and just a regular kaba dressing, you know, and they're coming in the same way the groomsmen came in. They're coming in hiding. You don't know who the bride is. They're just, you know, hiding themselves. They come in and they gather somewhere and they're fed with the meat that was brought. Remember, you brought this dry meat, so they prepared that meat in oil. And so during all those negotiations and stuff, they were preparing this meat in oil with salt and everything. And so the bride and the bridesmaids will come in, and they're coming in all in, you know, very honored position, backs down, heads down. They sit there, they're fed. Each person is put, you know, some meat in their hand and given some fufu. They're fed there, just gentle feeding. And then now they take them back out to go clean them up now and dress them up and bring them in now for the eventual presentation. So when they go out, they'll clean them, they'll wash them, whatever the dry cleaning or whatever they do, they'll rub them in camwood, you know, camwood, the whole place red. And the value of this camwood is, you know, beauty and everything all bundled into one. And then they'll come back in, this time in song, right? They're coming back in song this time, because now we're actually receiving the bridal train, you know, of sorts. They're coming in. Everybody's looking like, who is the bride? Nobody knows who the bride is in this group right now, because none of them is particularly dressed in some different way. It's just camwood, and so you can be suspecting and looking, and then they'll come in, and then they'll start presentation. You know, dancing, and it is the groom side that is doing this, right? It is
Oh,
the
so
women on the groom
women,
side
got you.
that receive the bride.
Mm-hmm.
It's the women on the groom side that receive the bride, and the bridal train presents them to their family, right? And say, this is the bride and friends that is coming to our family. Let's know who they are. So the presentation is in form of asking questions. So they'll go up to this one. They always, of course, the person leading always know who the actual bride is. So she knows what order to follow in doing the introductions. So she'll go to one and say, what is your name? And that is in the ear. They'll just go like, what's your name? You know, you tell your name. Then they'll ask your father's name, ask your mother's name, and then they announce it loud. So when you say your name, they'll turn around and say, she says her name is this. And then they'll go, what's your father's name? She says her father's name is, as they're reading out those names, the people on the mother's side or the people on the father's side now are also doing their background checks immediately. Did they say she is the daughter of this pa uphill? Ah, okay. Wow. Children from that compound are very good there. They're very so
wow. So essentially what they have done is they are not checking just the lady getting married. They're checking her friends as well and her parents.
Yes.
So by the time they're asking for your name and your parents, they're saying the lady we're getting married to has friends and is related to people of good repute.
Correct.
Wow.
Absolutely. So the checkout, this particular event shows that the checkout is not only on the girl, because that had been done, who she keeps company with. And that is a big factor, right? As to how they're going to carry out their life in marriage. So that's important. So they go through that line of maybe 6 or 7 bridesmaids, and then they finally come to the actual bride herself. And so there's usually a little pause when they come to that point, some singing, some enchanting, some fun, and then they go to the actual bride and then they ask again, so what's your name? And she says, what's your father's name, mother's name, everybody that this is her. And now that everybody has seen that this is her, that is when that box that was brought with dresses, with traditional, the dressing, the attires, they will now go dress her up now as the bride. We now want to show the woman that we have accepted into our family, the dress her up with the traditional way, put bangles, necklaces, traditional necklaces, of course, and all of that dressing, and then presents her to us now as a married woman, that this is the woman. Everything has been taken from the father's side. The mothers have taken, we have presented her friends to you. This is her. This is the woman that we are taking to our family, to our brother, to our son. And then dancing and dancing and dancing for that part. And then she sits down.
Okay.
And now it's the turn of the bride's family to find a husband and introduce him as well to the rest of the bride's family.
Okay.
So whoever is in charge on the bride's side knows that the groom is lying on that bed back there, protected by his groomsmen. So they'll start singing a song that looks like it's calling on the presentation, right? So songs like like bring him quickly, let's see. So somebody will intone that song in the crowd. Somebody will intone that song in the crowd, like,
oh, beautiful.
So it will be one of the moms on the bright side saying, my body is itchy to see this groom, right? So you people bring him to us quickly. Let's see. And then dancing begins, and whoever is in charge dances over to the groom's location, lifts up the groomsmen that are sitting and protecting him, and then he comes up behind them and hides in that line of maybe 6 or 7 of them. And then they dance them around the floor. The entire bride's family gets up and dance to receive this groomsmen on the floor, and dance, and then comes time for presentation. So exactly the same thing that was done with the girls is done here with the groom side, and they start questioning, what's your name? What's your father's name? What's your mother's name? And now it's a woman from the bride side doing this presentation. So she's asking and announcing it out to her family. Say, he says his name is this, that. And then you'll hear people chanting in the back, say, hey, that name, that's a name of a really strong person. That is a correct name. That's the kind of name we want for our son-in-law. You know, those kinds of things. So it goes through like that, through the list of groomsmen that are available. And then there's that little pause, and then they come to the actual groomsman now. And in fact, again, this is the point at which some of the members of the family actually get to know who the groom is. Okay. Because up to this point, the mother of the bride might have been telling the other members of the family that he is from this compound, he is this person, but they are coming from far away. They might not have met him.
Not know who
the very close people in the family might have met him. Maybe they go to church together or they meet in other places, but other people of the family don't know him. So this is the time to actually present him to the rest of the family. And whoever is doing the presentation, the people on the groom side are also seeing that person. It's not the mother of the bride, the biological mother. It's a family person from that side. So you are beginning to see the family extension, the relationship that you're creating. You see this person tomorrow. You are not going to say that you don't know him.
You don't know him.
Or her, right? You know her. She is from your wife's family. She is the one that was presenting to the, so you know those relationships are created right there. The extended family is created right there. So she comes to the groom and does it in a more solemn way, presenting the groom, holding their hands and checking for how strong the bones are, the muscles and everything, and announcing out loud to the rest of the family that look at him, look at the muscles. And you people think that my farm will have problem again. My farm will be cleared this year completely, no problem, you know. And this year when I go harvesting, I'm not going to complain that I don't have somebody to come and carry my corn. Look at this man with his friends. My corn will be harvested and carried home this year, no problem. I will not break my back again, you see. And then they will sing their songs. Oh, today we have exchanged a daughter for a son. You know, all those meaningful songs that they sing, powerful songs that bring meaning. And then they feed, their job on the woman's side is to feed the man. And so they'll feed the man with fufu corn and njama with egusi. Fufu corn, vegetable with egusi. Even though most people know that in Kom, the traditional meal of Kom is kate kate.
I was going to ask you, if kate kate is the traditional meal, why do they choose something else to feed him with?
The meaning behind it is that egusi and njama and fufu, pure organic content, right? Nothing extravagant out there. So it's simple, but also it has this traditional power that it says it brings strength. It adds weight. It's like these women want this guy to get up from here. And then when they take their daughter, they should not complain that they didn't have a child. Because in culture, when you give your daughter away in marriage, the very first thing you're waiting for is what? Is a baby. Right? The very first thing you're waiting for is a baby. So they consider a goosey, and I think in typical English for people in watching this from other places, a goosey might be things like melon seeds or pumpkin seeds, right? Pumpkin seeds, melon seeds. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about here. It is mixed with this green vegetable, which we call njama. In Kom, we call it mbas. You know, mbas. So this particular mbas will be mbasangese, which means vegetable with egusi in it. And the egusi is cooked in a form such that it comes out as lumps. So you can actually pick out almost like a cake, right? Like a pudding of egusi from the njama like that. And it's powerful. It says it's nutritious. It brings fertility. It brings weight. It brings, you know, some power. So they're giving this man some power and some fertility so that when he gets their daughter, they are sure that when they sleep, two of them, they're going to wake up three of them. That's the way they say.
Got you.
Right? That's what they will say. They will sing it in the song. Like we want, as you go like this, we want you to go and come back quickly. When you go, come back quickly. And what are they talking about coming back quickly? They are looking for a grandchild. Exactly. So that is the significance of that particular meal. Now, the rest of the crowd at the event will eat the kate because the father of the bride, though he is not present in that room, knows that there are visitors in his compound.
Okay.
And for that reason, people cannot come to your compound and you abandon them. So he usually sends a fowl so that it can be prepared to welcome the visitors to his compound. So that kata, that fowl will be prepared and made into kata, and the rest of us can partake of that meal. And
wow. Wow. That is extraordinarily beautiful. And so is this the end of the traditional marriage? Do they still have some dancing or ceremonies to be done?
Yes, absolutely. At this point, they have presented the groom, they have fed him, they presented the bride, they dressed her. They are now both in the same room and they're in the public. So this is a time when dancing and celebration of that wedding takes place. There may be little variations now in what people do. In today's age, people will be doing this farotage ceremony at them celebrating and all of that. But in typical tradition, that is not part of the typical tradition. So it's important that in Kom, people separate the traditional wedding from the celebration of it. And that celebration, the rest of this celebration can happen outside of that home now. You can take it out to a hall. Remember that the food so far that people have been served has just been fufu corn and jama with egusi in it or kata.
So everything at this venue has traditional significance.
Exactly.
Everything at this location was moving towards the marriage. Nothing
Correct.
extraordinary.
Nothing extraordinary.
We're going to see here is part of the marriage ceremony.
Exactly.
Now, from this point, if you want to continue to do a wedding at the same venue, then you can bring in more food and more drinks and more people.
Absolutely. And at this point, you can have a DJ. Maybe you had a DJ set outside or set in a room somewhere, a hall with rice and stew and a jollof rice and ndole and koki, all those additional foods for friends that have come from all over the world to celebrate with you on this day. And they can all move in there now to continue the celebration. But the traditional wedding is done. Now we have a traditional wedding, a ceremony, a celebration, right? Just as you go to church, you get the wedding in church is done, then you get out of there, and then you have a celebration. It's different. Yes, so the actual aspects of the traditional wedding are done when the groom has been introduced and celebrated on the floor, just as the bride was introduced and celebrated. At that point, the bride's family, the family as they're celebrating the groom, they bring a bag of corn flour. Once that bag of corn flour comes and is presented, it means that everything is essentially done. That's it. When that bag of corn flour comes and they put it at the feet of the groom and say, "This is Bo." So Ndoh'wii with this bag of corn flour. That's what the bride's family is presenting as the gift to this groom. So at that point, everything has been done. All the aspects of traditional wedding has been done, and everything from that point now is just more dancing and camaraderie, sharing between connections between the family. You going over and greeting some grandmothers over there, and celebrating with them and hearing their stories and receiving their blessings and advice and all of those stuff. But the wedding is essentially done. Now, if you are affluent. If you're an affluent person or you have more money and you were planning for a bigger celebration, now you can take it out of there into a hall where there is a DJ with decoration, with music and food and drinks and all of that. But that is no longer the traditional wedding. The traditional wedding is done.
Tell us, Tim, for it. Is divorce acceptable among the people of Kom?
Acceptable, I would say no. Condoned sometimes when there is absolutely no other way. Well, let's see. The very first thing when you look at divorce in Kom is that divorce in the Kom culture entails the wife leaving the husband's home and returning to their home. Right? In typical Kom culture, divorce means the wife leaves the husband's home and returns to their home. Because there is no written contract in tradition that says you are married. There is nothing you sign. The contract for traditional marriage is verbal. It is that contract that you signed verbally on that day when you answered to your father that, yes, take this and eat it.
Eat.
And your father told you that when I eat, I don't regurgitate.
Vegetate.
So make sure that as I'm taking these things, I'm not going to be forced someday to give it back. Because divorce in com culture means whatever was taken as bride price should be returned. The father of the bride, just as the father of the groom, when you came and told your dad that you were getting married, they asked you, are you ready? Are you sure you're ready for this? You are perfect. You can take care of this. And you are sure that it's this person. And you agreed. And then they told you, because when we go and bring this girl to our compound, you know you are responsible. And I don't want to hear this, and that. And you said yes. They say, okay, they will go and see the family. They go to the family, the bride side, and the father asks the bride, are these the people you said are coming here? You said, yes, these are them. So these things that they have brought, you accept that I should take them? Or should I say, take your things and go back? And you said I should take them. And I told you that when I take, I don't give back. Because once it goes down, it doesn't come back up. And you said, go ahead. So you were sure. So all those things were done to let you know that as you are going into this union, it is a bond that is not separable. It is a bond that is no longer separable. In terms of being acceptable, I would say no. However, culture also recognizes that there are crimes that are committed by individuals that are not prescribed by culture, right? Crimes. So culture has to be flexible to recognize that people who commit crimes, right, and crimes that maybe you cannot punish them for, the only way is to avoid being in that criminal situation. So if, for example, a woman is being assaulted, the culture doesn't support any man assaulting, whether you are the successor or the original husband of a woman, to assault your wife, right? So assault and other things like that, that completely dehumanize the woman, are things that culture itself doesn't accept and doesn't permit. And so short of culture punishing you for those acts, even if it is not the wife herself that gets up and says, I'm too tired of this, I want to go. Sometimes it can be the family itself that comes up, having acknowledged all these things, and says, you know what? When we signed this contract, you told us that you were taking our daughter to treat her this way, this way, this way. You have violated these terms of the contract, and we are taking our daughter back. We can take care of our daughter. We did not give our daughter to you because we didn't have the power to take care of her. You have proven to us that you cannot take care of our daughter. We can take her back. So there are circumstances like that. And those circumstances will be based on, will be acceptable. And everybody, even culture, will recognize that in situations like this, there's just no other alternative but to free the woman or the man from abuse or from a criminal environment. So it becomes a safety issue. Right, no longer a cultural issue, a safety issue, which I think culture recognizes.
I have another question for you, and there are some citizens of Kom, or people who are interested in marrying women from Kom who may not be resident locally or in the diaspora. Is there any way they can carry out a ceremony like this? It almost seems like the only way to do this, you have to be in Kom. How would you encourage them to navigate it? Can they use substitutes? Is that even allowed? Or is there a system where they can call in? Or what is acceptable in the Kom system, please?
In the Kom system, because the traditional wedding is not only between two people, but two families. Right? Traditional wedding is not between two people, but two families. So whatever blessings that they're giving to a bride on the day of the wedding or this, they're giving those blessings through and through. In some cultures, it might be different. So in Kom, it's acceptable that there can be a stand-in, for you. And generally, as long as the stand-in is your blood relative, right? Remember, my brother is me. In a sense, my brother is me, and my brother is going to succeed me when I pass along. My nephew is going to succeed me. So that lineage relationship means that if I'm not there and I'm absolutely unable to be there, then my brother can stand in for me to represent me and my family that is receiving their daughter. right? And if they have done their background, if the bride side has done their background studies well, and that's why that introduction that we talk about is necessary, you are assessing not only the one person that is going to be living with your daughter at home, you are assessing the entire family. And so on the background of that, somebody from that family can stand in to represent you, represent the family, and allow you to do that, that assessment. Now, so that is the best way to do it, because in tradition, most of the people that are really hold the power in tradition will not be out here in the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional wedding is done in the home of the mother of the child, right? Mm-hmm. And the mother of the child is not, while being the biological mother, because it's done in that compound, the mother of the child is all the other mothers and sisters who may not be in the diaspora. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes then it is important that that event occurs right there at home. That is the most important thing. It should occur right there. Let them be there. Let all of them play their roles as they grew up expecting to play in this wedding, because it comes with blessings. And sometimes when some of these steps are missed, certain things come in that you don't understand the sources, certain disagreements start coming up, and you go to visit this auntie, there's a fight between this auntie and that auntie, simply because there were certain things that were not done right. And those things affect you individually and then affect you in your home, right? So I think it is best to do it in that environment. But now, short of that, if you cannot absolutely be in that environment, and you have somebody along you in the diaspora that has been bestowed the powers, it means that that person now takes responsibility for working with the rest of the family.
Got you.
So it doesn't have to be any random person that I can sit up here and say, I'm doing a traditional wedding, and then just go do a traditional wedding, invite people, dress in this dress, and go in there and say that I'm doing a traditional wedding. No, a traditional wedding has specific items that must be concluded. Specific things that have to be done, specific people that are responsible for specific things. So if those things are not done, you can have a celebration and invite people, and we drink in a hall here in DC or Indiana and dance all night and go off, and we say that we had a traditional wedding. We didn't. We just had a celebration of a wedding, but we didn't have a traditional wedding. If you want to have a traditional wedding, you want to know the items that constitute a traditional wedding in your culture, as we have just said in COM, who is responsible for doing what, and get to those people. And if those people are not where you are and you cannot be where they are, they will tell you what to do. But the traditional wedding celebration that you will do here will not be the traditional wedding. And that is the one thing that I want to separate out. The traditional wedding will have its items. I can do a traditional wedding celebration here, invite my friends, and we dance all night and celebrate and everything. But the actual traditional wedding itself will not be that activity. Exactly.
Has got a venue, has got players, key players, and
an agenda. Yes, and activities that must be completed. So if you complete those activities, even in quiet, because you are not able to be there, and then you do a traditional wedding celebration here, that's different. Because as long as the family agrees that you have done a traditional wedding, the father knows that we have come and seen him. Whoever you send, right? You can be here, and they will send somebody to go and see the father of the bride.
Sure.
And then the mothers know that you have gathered them, they gathered together, and you came and saw them.
Asked for.
Whether you send somebody to represent you, maybe your wife even sends somebody to represent her. It may be two completely different people from the families that are representing them. But the fact is, the idea was that these two families came together. The mother side accepted the things that came and agreed that everything is in order. And these things were done. And the consecration was given to the family. And that consecration was then transferred to you here. And you are celebrating it. That's a difference. So now, if your mother has also moved, right? If the mother of the bride has moved, if the mother of the bride is in the diaspora with the bride, then what they simply require is the permission of the father, right? They require the permission of the father and the other mothers to say, okay, do it over there, and then send our things. If there are things that have to go back to the family, right? So
Yes.
those things happen. Those are decisions that are happening at the level of the family, not you.
True.
So for
They
me,
come to
for you, the groom,
agreement.
the prospective groom and the prospective bride, you have to go through the right channels, let them do those negotiations, and then tell you that, okay, go ahead and do
Okay.
this. So that it doesn't look like you just organize a traditional wedding. If they go through those negotiations and the power of attorney is given to somebody to stand in, just as you can have somebody standing for you back there, they can also delegate somebody officially to stand in here. Not that you selected. You don't just come up and say, oh, I've picked this person to represent my father, my mother. No, if you have family in the village, the real family, let them say, okay, this person is there, go talk to him. And then we will do all arrangements with him. And you people can now work out how you get it done. I think that would be the best approach to.
Wow, Tumfo, thank you so much. So I have just a few more questions. They help us understand what's the Ndoh'wii.
In the Com system, there are Afo'Bowayn, the father of the bride's thing,
Yes.
and the Ndoh'wii, Afo-Ghi-Nawayn. That constitutes the traditional wedding, and everything is done from there. However, because of the clan structure of Com, right? The matric clan structure where families are broken into clans. You say that you are from the Kijam family. You say that you are from the Ikwi family. You say you are from these different families. And even within these matric clans, there are even smaller groups of families. And they have their own peculiarities in certain things that they do. The Ndoh'wii is one of those. It is a third level of traditional marriage. It's a third level of traditional marriage. So from the Afo'Bowayn to the Afo-Ghi-Nawayn, which is the Ndoh'wii, the public event, and then the Ndoh'wii is a third level that is family specific. So not all families in Com do the Ndoh'wii. And if the Ndoh'wii was not done for a woman, a Ndoh'wii cannot be done for her daughters. Right, so Ndoh'wii is a lineage thing. Not all families do it. I have not done it. I've never participated in one, but I believe that the basic sense of the Ndoh'wii is like some rededication, because it typically happens years into the marriage. It happens years into the marriage. In today's world, with time constraints and things, some people do all together. You do the Ndoh'wii finish and then get into the Ndoh'wii and do it and get everything done. So, but the Ndoh'wii is a third level. It's family specific. Not all families do it. If they do it in your family, then all the daughters of that family will have a Ndoh'wii. And in Ndoh'wii, what happens? The same kinds of things that were brought during the Ndoh'wii are brought. The oil, bangles. Ncha is like bangles, right? So Ncha is bangles. You may fill the lady up with bangles all the way to the arm here, bunch of necklaces and things like that. And it's a public demonstration now, public reaffirmation, because remember, the Ndoh'wii customarily used to happen at night. The Ndoh'wii customarily used to happen in the day. So it's a more public, open air reaffirmation, not inside the house, because you can imagine something happened at night inside the house of a mother in the village. It's a house that can hold maybe 20, 30 people. Then Ndoh'wii is a more open public event now, with more people can be there. It's it's a reaffirmation of sorts. And in that case, the woman now who has been married for a while is actually the one digging her hands into the oil and, telling her mothers that, yes, I'm in this thing, I'm in it for forever and ever, and all of that. So it's some kind of reaffirmation, rededication.
So why did they give us so many bracelets?
Oh, because all the mothers are going to go off with one of them, I guess, right? So all those things will not even belong to her. At the end of the event, this mother going here will take, hey, this is for you, this is for you, this is for you. They'll all take those things, each one of them. Kind of like we have souvenirs, right? So we have souvenirs in our, at our weddings. People come and they go with this and this, yes. So the mothers of the bride take home these pieces of things, and when they hold it, they say, I gave my daughter away, in wedding, and this is how I came home looking all nyangarish.
Tumfon, you are, I am sure your people are proud, and you've been a wealth of knowledge. You've been a well of wisdom for us, and it's the system in Com is entirely different from what we hear in other parts of Africa. So thank you, thank you, thank you for going through each step, helping us understand the significance and helping us understand how it's done and why it's done the way it's done, and giving us counsel on how to navigate this system. Completely thank you very much for coming on our show.
Thank you so much, Marilyn, for having me, and for having me on a topic that is very, very, I mean, it's a deep topic, because it's one of the easiest cultural aspects to be adulterated, right? With how exposed we are to the world. And in fact, recently the Afo-a-Kom had to come out very clearly and issue a decree related to traditional weddings in Com land, because it saw that there was a lot of adulteration coming in, and people were beginning to get confused, not knowing what was really traditional wedding in Com, mixing it up with a bunch of different things. So they had to come out, the Equifon had to come out and prescribe very clearly that this, and this should no longer be seen in our traditional weddings, because we need to revert to what a traditional wedding in Com is. And so I think it's important, and I thank you for doing this. I thank you for all the work that you are doing, trying to educate our people, trying to expose some of these cultures and cultural differences. It's a powerful, powerful message. And for everyone listening in, do find time, if you understand anything about your culture, find a way to get it out there. If you can get on the show African Summons with Marilyn here, get in there and provide that information, so that our people, our African people, our Cameroonian people, our village people, wherever you come from, are aware, so that when we get into doing these things, we're doing them from a position of strength, from a position of pride, from a position of knowledge, and we can celebrate ourselves and let the world celebrate us as well. So thank you so much, Marilyn, for having me. I appreciate you, all the work that you're doing. And maybe some other day on some other topic, I might find myself here again. Thanks.
Thank you.
And that was Come For You, doing everything in their own style. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to join us for our next edition. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share. And until next time, I am Ndoh'wii saying thank you for responding to this summon.